Good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that quick multimodal video introduction. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Tonight we're going to learn more about our children's literacy learning in an education setting of our school. For those I haven't met yet, my name is Gemma Dinsdale, and I'm a science teacher at Highway High School. I'm really passionate about teaching my students to become. So, how do we use literacy skills in the classroom? Within our school, the concept of multiliteracies is used to help students develop understanding of learning based on visual, auditory, and textual information. This in turn helps them to convey meaning and thought effectively to intended audiences. We as teachers use the term multimodality to describe the digital process of combining literacies to convey meanings. By bringing our students' social interactions into the classroom, we hope to engage students with their learning and provide a platform that encourages creativity. Game-based learning and gamification are two teaching strategies we employ to develop interest and relate the current topics and units to real-world large-scale issues in our students' lives. So by using a cultural way in which our students engage with each other, and bringing it into an education setting, we're showing how students use literacy outside of the education setting. Lastly, with technology changing so rapidly, it is becoming hard to predict the exact skills that students will need for their future employment. What we can predict is that students will have large masses of information at their fingertips, and a skill set that allows them to interpret meaning and underlying bias will be of great value. Multimodality is the combining of print, visual, and auditory information into a digital mode. So as teachers, our aim is not to provide digital technologies to your children in an isolated environment, but to enhance their learning with the careful integration of technology into their schooling. So this means that in our class presentations, in our explorations, in our research settings, we as teachers aim to use technology in an Gamification uses gaming simulations for students to work through a particular unit. So students create characters and work through a series of quests with a backstory that is related to them. Students progress through the storyline by demonstrating their learning and abilities on each topic in the unit. So many of you are probably worried that this may cause a distraction from their learning. But what we aim to do here is to create a learning environment that acknowledges the ways in which the students are communicating outside of their formal learning. This places some of the power in the students' hands in that they understand that what they do outside of their education is still learning. They're still communicating, they're still interpreting, they're still reading, and they're still being literate. So the game-based simulation sets out the quests in a way that allows students to understand the syllabus requirements in a real-world setting. So in this way, we're taking something that's very document-based and allowing the students to interpret it in a way that relates back to their everyday lives. And lastly, the way that we can use multiliteracies for our students learning in our classroom is fact-checking. So you think of the abundance of digital information that's shoved in our children's faces every single day. Think of social media, think of Facebook, think of online newspapers, Instagram. These are often people's opinions. They're often presented with an agenda and they're often thrown at our children on purpose. Our children need to be able to dissect this information. They need to look at it and understand that this picture, this image, this video is still a way of someone relaying meaning to an intended audience. The more our students learn of being literate in terms of more than just textual information, the more they are able to interpret things like this for bias and intent. This allows our students to make informed opinions of their own. So I just want to further back up the whole multiliteracies concept and why it's important for our students to learn. Okay, so you may think that if my child can read and write confidently, then they're literate. But unfortunately, in our students' future, there will be more ways of relaying information than just textual based. So by introducing multiliteracies into our classrooms, regardless of subject content, then we're hoping for our children to be able to interpret, use, and produce electronic, live, and paper text. So that's reading, interpreting, using, extracting information from, and producing, conveying information in a range of formats. This means that they'll be able to employ linguistic, visual, auditory, gestural, and spatial semiotic systems. That means that each student will be able to use these systems in an interactive way and pick and choose which ones are going to convey the best meaning for them. The children are going to be able to do this in a social, cultural, political, civic, and economic purposes. So it's more than just teaching students how to do it in an educational setting. It's how to do it in their social lives, how to do it in their cultural lives, how to do it in their future working environments. And it's important to teach children to do this in socially and culturally diverse contexts. This is where we aim to do it in more than just our classroom setting. This is where we bring in their social and cultural environments outside of the classroom to encourage students to look at this concept throughout their whole lives. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Here's a list of further readings if anyone's interested at all, but seriously, if you have any questions, just come and have a chat. Thanks very much for listening.